Welcome to the Akashic Library.
All right, let's jump right in with an idea that, well, it might sound a little weird at first, but stick with me because it's a real game changer. What if I told you that you never actually lose the people in your life? Instead, you return them. You know that feeling, right? That incredible connection with someone that just brings you so much joy. But lurking right behind that joy is often this quiet, nagging dread, the fear of loss. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is it possible that the very things we hold most dear are also what make us hurt the most? I mean, if you want a perfect, if maybe a little extreme example of this, just look at Anakin Skywalker. His attachment to Padme, his terror of losing her, was so absolute that he was literally willing to burn the entire galaxy to the ground just to stop it from happening. It's a huge, tragic story, for sure, but it gets at a really core, really human fear. But what if that fear, his and ours, is all built on a fundamental mistake, a total misunderstanding of how relationships and life actually work? Well, the ancient Stoic philosophers would say, yep, absolutely. They believed all this anxiety comes from a critical error in our thinking. So what is that mistake? This brings us right to the Stoic diagnosis. See, they were all about this. If you want to solve a problem, you can't just treat the symptoms. You have to get right to the root of it. And their diagnosis was pretty straightforward. They said the moment you tie your happiness to anything you don't fully control, another person, your job, your health, you're basically handing the keys to your well-being over to chance, over to fate. And what fate gives, fate can always take away. And when you do that, you become what they called a plaything of fate. Just think about Anakin again. Was he a free man? No way. He was a puppet. His every move was being pulled by the strings of his fear and attachment. He wasn't acting out of reason. He was a total slave to this desperate need to control the uncontrollable. And the philosopher Epictetus, wow, he took it even further. He argued that deep down, this desperate clinging is actually, well, kind of selfish. We don't just want people to stay for their sake. We want them to stay to serve our own interest, our desire to not feel the pain of them being gone. So, okay, if that's the diagnosis, what's the cure? Well, this is where we get to that really radical and honestly life-changing idea at the very heart of Stoicism. You don't lose, you return. The Stoics said our pain comes from this fundamental illusion of ownership. We feel like someone was taken from us because, on some level, we are acting as if they were ours to keep forever. But were they ever really ours? Now, this quote from Epictetus, I know it sounds stark, almost brutal, but listen to the logic. Saying I lost it implies it was your property and it was stolen, but saying I returned it, that changes everything. It means you were just a caretaker for a while. It was a loan from the universe, and the loan came due. And they applied this to, well, pretty much everything. Your friends, your family, your house, your career. Epictetus would even say your own body isn't truly yours. It's all just temporary, on loan from what he called the revolution of the universe. And this brings us right back to Anakin. Remember that scene where Padme tells him you're not all-powerful and he shoots back, will I should be? That's it, right there. He gets it. He knows the only way to guarantee he never loses her is to have the power of a god, to control life and death. He's trying to do the one thing no mortal ever can. Okay, this is a powerful idea. But how do you actually do it? How do you train yourself to think this way when you're in the thick of it? Well, the Stoics had a practical method for this. They called it uprooting the passions. And it's super important to understand what they meant by passions. It's not just a regular feeling like sadness. To a Stoic, a passion is what happens when your judgment goes off the rails. It's when your thinking becomes, as they put it, disobedient to reason, like deciding that someone's presence is an absolute good and their absence is an absolute evil. And just one attachment can kick off the whole cycle. Think about it. You feel pleasure when they're around. You feel appetite or that deep craving for their presence. You feel fear that you might lose them. And you feel distress, real pain when they're gone. It's a complete emotional roller coaster, all powered by that one initial mistaken judgment. So Epictetus basically recommended a kind of mental weightlifting. You start small. Your favorite mug breaks. Instead of getting upset, you practice saying to yourself, I have returned it. Then you move up to bigger things. Your car gets a dent. Your pet gets old. You're slowly building that mental muscle to handle the heaviest lifts in life, the things that matter the most. Now, let's be honest, that sounds incredibly hard.
almost superhuman, right? And you know what? The Stoics knew it. Which brings us to a more moderate, maybe more realistic path. Let's be real, becoming a perfect, unflappable Stoic sage is a lifelong goal, and maybe an impossible one. Even the great masters who wrote this stuff struggled. They weren't emotionless robots. They were just human beings trying to figure it out, just like us. Take Seneca, for example. The guy was exiled for 8 years, ripped away from his family, his home, everything. While he was there, he wrote a letter to his mother, who was absolutely overcome with grief. And his advice to her wasn't just, hey, stop feeling sad. And here we see this really fascinating split. You've got the hardcore ideal of Epictetus, just completely uproot the passions. But then you have this practical path from Seneca. He told his mother to find a middle way. He said, the best middle course is both to feel regret and to restrain it. Basically, it's okay to mourn, just don't let that mourning consume you. So whether you're aiming for the hardcore ideal or the more practical path, what's the ultimate point of all this? What's the real payoff for all this mental training? It's the freedom of letting go. And this is so important to get right because it's the #1 misunderstanding of Stoicism. The goal is not to become cold and unfeeling. It's not about building walls around your heart to avoid pain. It's the exact opposite. The whole point is to love people more fully, more presently, precisely because you understand that your time together is temporary. It's about freeing your love from the prison of fear and possession. It's about cherishing the time you have without being crippled by the thought of it ending. So I'll leave you with this to think about. How would your relationships change today? With your friends, your family, your partner, if you consciously started seeing them not as something you own and are terrified to lose, but as a precious gift on loan from the universe, a gift you get to cherish for a while before you eventually have to give it back.
Sometimes the answer arrives only when you stop demanding it appear. Next, flow like water in Taoism, be like water.